I think too is believing in yourself. I think sometimes when you really want something, it's not always going to happen because there's something else bigger and better out there.
Hmm.
It could be a guest that you want on the show and it's not happening. Well, no, there's someone bigger. That's my mindset. Hey, it took 2 years to get off the ground, the show, but I knew it would happen. If they didn't take it, somebody else would. And I think, another thing too, this is a sideline thing. When I'm now teaching at the college level and I had you come in and give a talk, it took a while for me to be teaching there. So again, it's believing in yourself and never giving up, and think of it rejection. You know what? Because something else bigger and better is out there. And that's how I deal with that positive mindset.
Welcome to another episode of the Health Coach Academy podcast. I'm your host, Omar Cumberbatch of OmarCumberbatch.com. Appreciate, as always, you joining and taking a listen to all the new and good stuff in the health coaching space. So today we're going to do a little bit of a different kind of topic, and it's very much my favorite topic, about mindset and basically how you can turn your passion into a project that is going to fulfill you and really get down to the bottom of what you want and then desire. So today's guest is Christine Blanchette, and she is someone who turned her passion for running and into a creation of her own television show called Run With It. So it was really just fascinating talking to her, really just digging deep into how just following your passion opens up so many doors, and you just have to follow it. Something I definitely have struggled with over the years. I really like to have a plan, and I don't like to have this big open space for uncertainty. And just going through my journey personally, I'm beginning to feel like the need to just surrender, right? Gotta just like surrender to your passion, surrender to the universe, surrender to God, whatever you want to call it, and just kind of just go with it. And again, very uncomfortable for me to admit or to attempt, but they put things in front of you that you need to take heed and listen to these guys. And Christine is definitely one of those people. So just following her story really inspired me to continuously follow the passion that I do have internally, and I'll keep you posted, you know that. So real quick before we jump into the show, please leave a rating and review on iTunes. It continuously gives me the opportunity to interview wonderful people like Christine. And check out the course. The course is out there. Everyone is giving it good reviews, great feedback. To have my girl Kim Hines coming on the show shortly, who is someone who went through the course, started her podcast, has some great guests already. So I'm really proud of her. Yeah, so just take a look. And if you know anybody who is interested in using a podcast to build their health coaching business or coaching business in general, it's very helpful from what I hear from other coaches, not necessarily health coaches, get busy and get their podcast up and running. So let's jump into the show. Hey, Christine, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I am well. And how are you?
Fantastic. Now that we finally connected on my show. So you've been so gracious enough to, have so many different rescheduling, and I've been on your show before. So I really appreciate this time. So I'm doing very, very well.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, this is exciting. So I just want to let the audience get to know you a little bit better. So if you could just go into your background story a bit and what you're currently doing, and fill in the rest of the blanks as we go along. Then I have some questions for you right after.
Yeah, thank you. Well, it all started with, my passion for running and how it led to creating a TV show, half-hour show called Run With It. And it's a show about running, as I said, but it's also more than that. It's a fitness and wellness and fitness entertainment. I like to call it now. I coined it, I guess. And I interview doctors, a doctor's corner on the show. And I just enjoy giving the information, and it's all about the guests. And when it first started, Omar, it was more so of a running show, but now it has stronger legs. So, yeah, so it's all good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It is definitely a great show. I'm curious, how did you decide that that was going to be the medium for you to interview people and get your message out?
Well, I think that when you follow your passion, and it doesn't have to be running like my case, it can be something that you are truly wanting to do. Like, and I think to sustain the show, which has been since 2013, it just started, and I had that actually, to go back, I got laid off from my job in post media working in sales, and I had my running column. And so I said, what am I going to do? Hey, I know, create a show. I mean, it's more than just that, but getting back to following your passion, I think that's the whole thing, and when you do, it's wonderful and it sustains itself. Like, as I said, I've been doing it since 2013. It's going on about 10 years now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, were you always comfortable on camera?
No. I mean, like, grew up shy, and I think when you follow your passion, it doesn't matter it's not to say what's in your way. I think it's just a drive. When
Hmm.
you have that drive about um, running, and you want to share it, and you feel that you have an audience, it just started from there. And I think I didn't really intend to be in front of the camera. I was always happy behind the camera, but I guess it's meant to be.
Hmm. So, how did even this start? Because I'm sure there's a bunch of listeners who are curious just to see if they would be interested in having an actual TV show. Like, what is the process to that? Can you walk us through that a bit?
Yes. Well, come up with a concept, find out, investigate other shows, find out who your target audience is, and build the show. I think now, when I started, it was on linear TV, but now with, live streaming and having a podcast, it's starting up, and I think, as I said, it's your concept. And look around, ask for help too. It was me all about someone believing in myself too, sending a proposal off to the TV station. But really, it is a process. And you have to be patient and keep, you know, working at it, like yourself, right? You have a podcast, you have two podcasts, Omar. So, finding something that you really love, having the idea out there and test driving it and have that support and putting it out there, and you may just have, oh, I have one follower. Well, you're gonna have more followers as you go along. Like, it is a process.
Hmm. So, did you, when you pitched this initially, how much rejection did you receive initially, and how did you overcome that?
That's a very good question. It took 2 years to get off the ground. And when I sent the proposal off, they didn't answer me right away. I had to keep
Mm.
knocking on the door.
Mm.
And so finally the door opened and they said, sure, we'll air it. But just because someone says no, or because they're not answering you, do not give up. Keep knocking on those doors, because that's what happened to me. Because I thought to myself, I have a good product, I have a good idea, and it's all in timing, just like this interview. It took timing, and here we are talking.
Hmm. Right, exactly. So, do you have one of those was those Starbucks stories where you got rejected 100 something times, or like how did the process go as far as that?
Well, I think too is believing in yourself. I think sometimes when you really want something, it's not always going to happen because there's something else bigger and better out there.
Hmm.
It could be a guest that you want on the show and it's not happening. Well, no, there's someone bigger. That's my mindset. Hey, it took 2 years to get off the ground, the show, but I knew it would happen. If they didn't take it, somebody else would. And I think, another thing too, this is a sideline thing. When I'm now teaching at the college level, and I had you come in and give a talk. It took a while for me to be teaching there. So again, it's believing in yourself and never giving up, and think of it rejection. You know what? Because something else bigger and better is out there. And that's how I deal with that positive mindset.
Hmm. Did you always have that positive mindset as in general?
Yes, always.
Mm.
Because if I didn't believe in myself, who else would? And I had to have that support network, which I grew up, um, at times thinking, well, no one believes in me because someone said to me, you'll never make it as a runner. You'll never make it as a writer. And I thought, no, I'm going to do it because my heart, I'm driven and I believe in myself, and surrounding yourself with a support network and take whatever you can get in terms of someone gives you constructive criticism, run with it. No pun intended for the show.
No, absolutely. So I definitely see the common theme of believing in yourself and really following your passion. So obviously those are good foundational pieces as far as advice goes. So what do you think as far as you being successful in business? Like, was it something that you did learn? Did you always have an entrepreneurial spirit? Is it something that you learned through your family? I'm always curious to see what the background of a person who is having good success in a variety of avenues when it comes to this journey. What happened in that respect?
Yeah, well, that's a very good question, Omar, because my grandfather, my great grandfather and my grandfather owned the woolen mill, Blanchette woolen mill in Trentonville, Quebec, is a small village. And that woolen mill was very successful. So my Joe Blanchette owned it. He founded and owned the woolen mill, and my grandfather, Earl, managed it. And I think I get it from my grandfather, that entrepreneurial spirit, if you will. I I didn't need another thing too. I didn't need someone to say, well, do this, do that. I'm a self-starter, but I believe in that. I believe that I I just it might be that from my grandfather who loved, finding something and building it, and they say the saying, build it, they will come. You know,
Mhm.
the movie, I'm trying to think the movie now, the baseball movie.
Oh yeah,
It's
Field of Dreams.
yes. And I believe when people said, oh, you're just dreaming. No, you're not dreaming, because it takes visualization. You need to visualize it. You need to put action towards it. And you know what? Another thing too, it may not be what you want, but it might be close enough to what
Hmm.
you want.
Hmm. Yeah, so no, so it's pretty cool that you did have at least some background in your family history of going out there and putting a business together. What were, like, I guess, first stumbling blocks that you came across when you did actually start the business for the first time?
Oh, getting guests on the show.
Oh yeah.
It was really It was not easy because it was a pilot and the pilot was horrible. I mean, it was not great, but at least we had something, right?
Hmm.
To get something shown, if you will, getting guests, getting sponsors. I remember my very first sponsor. It was like a celebration. But yes, to answer that, yes, that was, but that's like in all business, right? I think that you have to start somewhere and you have to build it. It's building relationships and networking, and you get to know people. And first thing you know, now I have a waiting list. Can you believe it? To be on this
Right.
show?
It is unbelievable, right? Like how much momentum happens, and it compounds on itself. But like you said, having a waiting list, yeah. I mean, I remember when I first started as well with the podcast, just being so nervous to ask a person to be on the show, and now like it's kind of seamless. I don't ever have to really ask much anymore. It's like you said, you have a waiting list. I have a waiting list of my own, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely something that you probably never would imagine with the early hiccups that you do have with these kinds of things.
Yes. No, and your show is successful, right? I mean, it's build it, they will come.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, so and so getting guests was a problem. Eventually, it compounded itself and you got better at it. Was there anything like maybe in the world of marketing or branding that you had any difficulty with?
Yeah, I think too is like, I knew my target audience, but it's going a little bit deeper because what I mean by that is when I started branching out, like doing fitness entertainment, it seemed like the brand was better that way than, and I'm not saying I'm a runner. I love running and I love the running community. But when I branched out to interview celebrities who are training for a part or a stunt coordinator or an author, it seemed the brand just it didn't explode, but it felt like, wow, this is where I'm at. This is where I'm supposed to be.
Hmm. So that's interesting because you can get caught up in like just trying to be what you were and not evolve. It seems like as you evolve, your audience and your interests have also evolved and expanded. That's
Hmm.
that's kind of where we are.
Yes, and it changes over time, right? I mean, there's just the shows or the shows is like, oh, okay, now I have authors, I have, I just think it's just wonderful, as I said. And I don't know where it's going to go from there. To be, it might be, another a show that I may create. I don't know, but it's been going well. Um, both shows.
No, obviously, yes, definitely going great. How did you deal with the changes as they were going, or was just something that was just a natural transition as you were going along?
Well, I think social media, I think that had to like figure out, okay, which social media platform is going to like what I'm doing or which is the most engagement. And I found that Instagram is working better than Facebook. Um, and then Facebook works better on some other things like for writing. So it's figuring out this social media because whether we like it or not, social media is really important for our shows, to engage and to get our show out there, more eyeballs and listening and all that. But yeah, I hope I answered your question, Omar.
No, yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that you brought up the social media aspect because I'm definitely not a fan of social media. It's something that I have to lean into because I know that that's where the growth eventually is. And like you said, just more eyes on your show, more listeners and people who are actually more reachable through the social media outlets. So any advice on someone like myself who may not want to lean into it or is very hesitant to do so?
Well, I mean, I have a love-hate relationship with social media. I find it very time consuming. I find it like it's trying to put my authentic self out there, but I would say this, try to do something like, try um, doing some social media maybe once or twice a week, or get someone to help you to do the social media for you. And I think that might help because not everyone likes it. Or, like I said, I feel like I want to close myself down to social media, but then I can't. So I just find that the more authentic you are, the better. I think that's how I look at it, and I don't mind it so much. If
Right,
that makes
right.
any sense.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And you did bring up something in that last answer that I'm curious about too. Like, how much support do you get? Do you have a team? Like, what does that look like behind the scenes?
I have a very good team. I'm very, very grateful. I I like the saying, like my mom says, treat people the way you like to be treated. And I have a great crew of editors, camera people, makeup, and it takes a team. It's not just me. I wouldn't have a show or shows if I didn't have a great team. And that's the root. That's the result of being successful, I believe. And
Hmm.
then family, your friends, everything around and the positive mindset as well.
Hmm. So obviously, this was something that evolved as a health and fitness show. I'm curious, what is your routine nowadays when it comes to keeping in shape and your health? What do you do currently, and maybe a little bit of advice on how you balance the two, because obviously the two worlds are very important between taking care of yourself and running your business.
Yes, well, I call it my appointment with myself.
Hmm.
If I don't run every day, I'll walk. So run, walk, I'll do something. If I don't have time, I'll do the stairs, I'll do some body weight. But I feel like I need that for me to be the best I can be and to be more productive. And just, I feel if I don't do it, I'm not the same person. Like I just feel there's like self-care is huge. And if I don't do anything that day for one reason or another, I'll just, I'll just get away from the desk, from the computer and everything digitally, and just meditate or positiveness, I'll just do something that gets me away from technology. I even have a Fitbit app, and that's technology. Can you believe it? So I put it on watch list.
Yeah. No, I know it's all consuming, fortunately or unfortunately. It depends how you use it, right?
Definitely.
Well, listen, you've been fantastic. I really appreciate all these nuggets that you provided today. I'd like to give the audience one quick opportunity to get some advice from you about potential. What do you think potential first steps in an entrepreneurial journey for a health coach initially? Like, what would be like your biggest advice to give to someone who's just starting out in that space?
Yes. Or to get into exercising, Omar, you mean? Or,
Oh no, more on the entrepreneurial side,
oh,
like just not
well,
knowing specifically what their ultimate goal is, but there are some nuggets of truth in all entrepreneurial tips, especially from someone who's doing so well out there. So we're always curious to hear maybe what your idea of first steps should be.
yes. Well, find something that you love to do, and build on it. And another thing too, there might be other opportunities out there, and I'll share this with you. Like I'm a runner. I'm teaching running now. I never thought like I'm going to go back to teaching because I left running, teaching, right? And then
Mm.
it came back. So revisit opportunities as well. Like I never expected that. Now I'm teaching, I'm running. So as an entrepreneur, when people say, "What do you do for a living?" Well, I'm an entrepreneur. I got shows. I'm running, I'm following my passion, and I'm teaching, which I love, which is following. But I think the end of the day is really finding something that you like. You may not, you think, well, what do I like? Maybe revisit it. You never know what it is. You may be an author. You may love reading books and doing reviews, or you may want to become a life coach or a fitness coach or what you do, Omar. Like it really comes down to when you follow something you love, it sustains itself. And finding a mentor, I think a mentor is really important and it helped me.
Yeah, no, I've definitely agree with all that. It's so interesting how when you do follow your passion, like just there's certain doors that magically open that you have no idea
Mhm.
what was going to exist, and it really takes you down an interesting path. So I know it's easier said than done, especially when these health coaches out there are just starting out and they're more concerned about just making money and surviving. But I think it's always something to appreciate hearing the advice that you're bestowing upon us, so that there's a lot more out there as far as opportunities, as long as you kind of stay on that path. And yeah,
Mhm.
things are really good after a while.
Yeah, and another thing to look at the bigger picture. Think if like something comes along and it's like, oh, what is this? oh, maybe I can teach spinning because there's an email and they're looking for instructors. You may have the qualifications, you may not. This is where you think the bigger picture, it may lead to something bigger, and if not, something else. So it's like I've been doing that and it seems to be working all the time.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. So listen, Chrissy, you've been fantastic. Can you please give us all that we can get from you as far as your website, your social media handle? How can we keep up with all the great things that you're doing out there?
Yeah, thank you. Well, go to my website at runwithit.ca or social media, Instagram, Christine Blanchette _TV, or you can just Google my name. It'll come up. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, this was really great. I really appreciate you taking the time to share all this knowledge with the audience.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, have a great rest of the night.
You too.
Hope you enjoyed listening to today's episode of the Health Coach Academy podcast. If you did, jump over to iTunes and leave a rating and or review. It goes a long way in helping get this message out to our fellow health coaches and people in our industry. Also, if you can, jump over to my website, omarcumberbatch.com, where I give out a lot of freebies, including my 5-day sugar challenge for people who are having issues with sugar. And also for health coaches, I have the book, Hidden. It's the 6 not so obvious ways to get your clients unstuck. Have a great day.